Hi guys, my name is Michał Tech Test Tutorials, and in today's video I would like to show you a computer that I've built. This machine is built for gaming, but we also want to be able to do some productivity stuff, so the computer should be quiet. The price tag for all the components should be considered reasonable, not too expensive, but no cheap parts. We want to be able to have some quality stuff inside. I built a computer that I think is reasonable, and I would like to show this to you, as well as some benchmarks. So without any further delays, let's take a look how it's turned out. Now let's take a look at the case. It's BeQuiet silent based 800 case. Very nice, very elegant build. I like it very much. It got a huge amount of this sound isolation foam, so it is quiet. When you're trying to pick a case for a computer that is supposed to be quiet, it's always a balance between whether the airflow will be good or whether this will be quiet. In this case, this balance is great, so we get these small cutouts on the side that are also not that terrible looking, but there is some air coming through here, and it's quiet on the same time, so the thing that was very important for me in this build. It gives you a decent amount space behind the motherboard, so you can do all the cable management. This is not a windowed case, so but the cable management is very important though, because you want to have a nice airflow. You got 3 pre-installed very high quality fans, 2140s in the front, 1120 in the back. So for the air-cooled system, this is the perfect solution. I wouldn't choose this case for a water-cooled system. Not enough space for all the things, and not a great options. But if you are building a computer that will be air-cooled, it's a great case. You got USB 3.0 on top, nice minimalistic switch, just turn on off. You got some place for installing hard drives. You can remove one of the cages for bigger GPU. So yeah, you've got everything you need. I was very happy that I have chosen this one over some others. Now let's take a look at the PSU that I've chose. Great one, 1 kilowatt from BeQuiet Gold Plus certificate. Great PSU. It comes as a multi-rail PSU, but there is a switch and a jumper that you can make it one rail, so you don't have to be thinking whether I've got enough amps on this rail or in here. You've got whole 1 kilowatt to use for all the components. It is semi-modular, so you get tons of cables. Actually, great packaging by the BeQuiet. You can take a look. So we got tons of cables that should cover almost all your needs. I had some problems with that, but I will tell you that a little bit later. And the 24-pin cable is pre-installed, but it's long enough to go all around behind the motherboard in the back. It's got this famous silent fan installed. You've got fan controllers, so all the fans inside the case can be controlled by this PSU option that I've chose. Great one. Very decent, because there is not a sound from inside from the coils that you can sometimes hear with some other PSU that are under a maximal load. Another problem in here, as I said, fan controllers. This PSU should be enough for Crossfire or for SLI, for multiple GPU. It's rubberized, so it stands on the rubber feet, and there is a rubber between the PSU and the case, so it's not going to vibrate or create any noise very good choice. The only problem with cables I will tell you a little bit later, but that was not a big issue, so it was great. It turned out to be a great PSU for this build. So now let's take a look at the motherboard. I've chose Asus SABERTOOTH 990FX R2. This is for AMD processors because we are going to go all the way AMD in this build. This mobile is probably more than I will need, but I wanted to have all the components on this motherboard quality, so the capacitors and everything should last years. One thing I didn't like it was this DIMM slot. So the clip on the right side of the DIMMs, as you look at the motherboard right now, only the right one clips, so moves, and on the left side stays in the place. That's not a great feature. It felt cheap under the hands, but all other components were great. Nice heat sinks. This should last years. You've got a lot of options. You got front USB 3.0, of course, nice NIC, nice audio cards, nice UEFI, a lot of USB 3.0, some 2.0, PS2 connection for your keyboard or mouse, the option to remove this bracket for fan, also great, 4 DIMMs for your memory. So all the nice features that you are expect for a producer like Asus. A nice color scheme, nice right-angled SATA ports, everything you need for this build. This mobile should last years and shouldn't cause any problems in the future. I told you it was going to be all the way AMD, so we've got the AMD8350 with 16 megabytes of cache, black edition, so it's an unlocked processor. You can, if you want to, you can overclock it all the way up to 5 gigahertz. I didn't want it to do as much. It's 8-core CPU, should be decent for gaming. At stock 4 gigahertz, this should deliver as much computing power as we want to. It's 8-core, but it's not like it's better than i7. It's cheaper, should be good for gaming. These cores, you can say, these are smaller cores that from Intel, but for this build, I guess price to performance, that's most definitely the thing we are going to use. And for the AMD processor, you need a decent cooling, and I think I have chose best I could. So the Dark Rock Pro 3. Actually, on the start I was a little bit afraid when I saw the review of this cooler at Linus Tech Tips. You should check this out. So Luke was complaining about the installation process over Intel processor because of the stupid wrench that comes with it. Maybe it's dumb, I don't know. You got zero problems during installation over AMD. You just install the backplate, then you install the cooler, some thermal paste, and after a couple of minutes you're good to go. Zero problems with RAM in this configuration, so if you want to choose the CPU, motherboard and this cooler, you will have zero problems with RAM installation, unless you will choose something that is very high RAM module. This cooler is insanely quiet, great manufacture. It's I have never seen something crafted with this attention to detail when it comes to a cooler, so it was a great choice. I will show you some footage of when I installed this, but zero problems with that. Lots of heat pipes, great materials, great looking, very silent cooler. That was one of the best, if not the best cooler I have ever seen for AMD. It's big, but if you got place enough, definitely you should try to use this one. AMD only means AMD only. So as a graphic card, I've chose one from Sapphire. This is R290X, 8 gigs version. So a new card on the market, but well reviewed by by the most demanding reviewers. You've got 8 gigs of VRAM for your textures, so if you are a heavy Skyrim player, you like mode games, if you are going to play the games that in the future will require a lot of space for textures, the 8 gig version is definitely better than the one from NVIDIA, the 970 with 3.5 gigs of RAM. Actually, this card is great because Sapphire does one of the best cooling solutions for the AMD cards. They tend to be a little bit hotter during maximal load. However, I have ran the Valley benchmark for like an hour, zero problems. That was not overheating. The fans were operating very quiet, so there was not a huge bump in a sound signature during heavy load. You can connect up to 4 monitors to this card with upcoming DirectX 12. Maybe you will even be able to mix and match this card with some greens, some from AMD, or you can add another R290X and have a nice Crossfire setup. This PSU that we've installed should definitely allow 2 cards like this. This is a long card, so during the installation I had to remove one cage for hard drives. I was expecting that this will happen, but I wanted this card because of the cooling, and I was ready to sacrifice one of HDD cages to install this card. Now let's take a look at the RAM. I've chosen HyperX Fury, just the standard DDR3 16 gigs of CL10 RAM. That should be enough for most of the games. If not, you can easily add it later, although you will have to remove this cooler for the installation. Also, for a small productivity, that shouldn't be a problem. 16 gigs should be just enough for what we need. Now, storage. We will need some place for all our games. 2 terabytes should be enough. If you need more, then you can up to get 3, 4. That's not a problem. These Seagate drives operate at reasonable speed, and it's quiet. Also, it will be installed in rubber rails in this cage, so not a problem. However, we want also some performance, so we want our system to boot under 10 seconds. So I always choose Adata because they are actually building this SSD at reasonable price. The SP900 is very fast. You get 500 reads, 500 writes, so a great SSD for system. 256 should be just enough for a system, some application that we want to boot fast. So that's our storage solution. Yes, you could install SteamOS or Linux, but for most people Windows will be the natural choice. Maybe one day the games will support Linux a little bit better and we could get rid of the Windows, but not an option right now, sadly. But now we can actually start building our computer, and we will start by removing this bracket that supports the stock cooler from AMD. We will install the backplate that we've got from BeQuiet, and it's great, it's thick, so there will be no bend gauge during this installation. Very nice backplate, as I said, 4 screws and you're good to go. Here you can take a look how precisely the surface have been crafted, so it is amazing for a cooler. I have never seen something like this. And here all the motherboard with RAM, the whole assembly, you can take a look. It fitted great, although it does cover almost whole motherboard, or at least this upper part of this motherboard. There was, however, some place left between RAM modules and the fan. You can install a fan a little bit higher if that's a problem. If you are going to use a very high RAM module with radiators, that might be an issue. Wasn't in this case. Here you can take a look how the drive is installed in this rubber rails. You get a lot of them and it comes clean and very smooth, and it won't fall out, and you don't need any tools for removing that. No vibration or whatsoever between case and the drives. In my opinion, just perfect setup. The only time that I got scared during the installation that I won't be able to fit everything in that case was when I installed motherboard, and it was about the cooler. So between the cooler and side panel, it's literally like 5 millimeters free space. So not too much, but that was enough to fit all that, and I was lucky, I guess. Here you can take a look how I was able to install, to do the cable management. Not the cleanest way, you may say, but in this case, this is not a windowed case again. It was only all about the airflow, so there are no cables that could disturb the airflow. You can see here in the back how the SSD is installed. You got actually place for 2 of them. These cables could look a little bit cleaner, but that wasn't a big issue, so I was able to install the side panel at the back of the motherboard, so not a big problem here. One thing that I promised that I will mention was the problems with cable management. So you get a lot of cables with the BeQuiet PSU, but for example, if you want to connect power to a Sata drive, you only get one cable that is with one Sata connector at the end. So I've used this one for the SSD in the back, and then when you want to connect an optical drive or HDD drive, then you have to use the cables that got 3 SATA connectors for power, and you have to do something with those connectors. You have to either hide them somewhere in the back. It would be nice if we could get like 3 or 4 this single connector SATA cables like this one that I've used for SSD in the back. Other than that, I've noticed that sometimes the connectors seems to fall out from the PSU. Of course, if you will use the zip ties to connect, to bind them all together, they won't fall out, but again, I think they could have done a better job with these connectors. So here you can take a look how it turned out, how this computer is built. In my opinion, it's great. It looks very smooth. At the back, a little bit above the PSU, you will notice the switch that is branded BeQuiet, and this switch is used to switch this PSU. Here you can see it. It's used to swap the mode between multi-rail and single rail. It's now on multi-rail because we got a lot of power in here to spare, but you can switch it anytime you want. So it is a conclusion time and time to show some benchmarks. I ran Valley for like 40 minutes just to take a look how hot and how noisy it could be, and the one thing I've noticed, it was quiet even in full load. So after about 40 minutes in Valley, Valley did like 70 to 80 or sometimes even 100 FPS. The overall score for 3D Mark, you will be also able to see at the end. Here you can see it's doing like, sorry, I could have done this a little bit better, but somewhere about 40 to 50 FPS. That was smooth enough. The overall outcome, so the score could be a little bit higher. We can do some overclocking with the GPU, some overclocking with the CPU. I wouldn't say that you are able to take it all the way to 5 gigahertz, although you could try if you want to. You can overclock the GPU some, maybe you could get a little bit higher score. For that I wanted, for the customer that I was building this computer, that was enough, so he will be perfectly able to run all the games he wanted to. If we will have to, we can do some overclocking, we can add another GPU or do anything like that. I do have to say that it was fun building this computer, it was fun doing the video, and guys, if you liked it, if I helped you, if you got any comments, please leave them down below. Don't be afraid, like this video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it, and thanks again for watching, and stay tuned for some more.